I did not put I meant to put a definition in your syllabus or in the introductory pages. I did not. I've added it here. Eschatology, it's a compound of two Greek words. The eschatos means end, final things. That term occurs 54 times in the Greek New Testament in about 48, 49 verses in varied forms. And I just looked at, let's see, that's a modifier. I just looked at the modifier. I don't know about various other forms, but it's a word that is very, very common to the Greek New Testament. And so at the top of the page, Grace Bible Institute syllabus, eschatology, things to come, really last things. And I think that's what the way Courtney referenced it Sunday when he gave the advisory that we'd be beginning the new quarter today. The course is a targeted approach to the study of future things as contemplated in Scripture by the grace believer. And then you have some course objectives there. I may not read this through, but I will proceed through it to make sure that the salient or the relevant information is clear. Course objectives. Upon completion of the course, the student will be able to approach the Scripture with confidence that God the Spirit will teach you. Distinguish among major people groups identified in Scripture. Specifically, the Jews, the Gentiles, the Church of God. If you have a pen and you want to write a reference here, go ahead and put in here 1 Corinthians 10:32. We will be dealing with this a little bit later on this evening. But 1 Corinthians 10:32, the church, the Jews, the Gentiles, the Church of God. There are some very specific things to keep in mind. First of all, to observe definitively, and once that's done, to be consistent with that observation. Consistency is going to be necessary in systematizing any conclusions, any observations you make from Scripture. You don't just throw them out on a piece of paper and then expect to go back and synthesize them neatly. You can't just throw stuff in a warehouse and expect to find it. You can't throw stuff in 2 storage sheds in Salem, Oregon, and then go back with time limitations and expect to find certain things. Why didn't you bring this back? Well, sweetie pie, I didn't know what storage shed it was in, didn't know how deep it was. Okay, so take a lesson. Distinguish among major people groups, the Jews, the Gentiles, the Church of God. That is a distinction, a definitive distinction that Scripture makes. We ought to observe it and use it. It's meant for our benefit. It's definitive. It's not complicated. Understanding it, applying it consistently may involve some complication. That may involve some additional work, but the Scripture says the Jews, the Gentiles, the Church of God. Doesn't confuse them. Number 3, identify by supportive Scripture the major prophetic events involving these 3 groups that we've enumerated. The Jews, the Gentiles, the Church of God. What are the future things, as we are in the last times, for these 3 groups? And by the way, where do you fit? Identify by supportive Scripture the major prophetic events involving these groups. This is a course objective. And arrange them in a chronological sequence. Any idea what that means? Identify the major events and arrange them in a chronological sequence.